Shalom, giving honor and praise unto Yah, the Creator and the Maker of heaven and earth. The historical aspect of the Israelites in this presentation will begin with the Exodus to the coming of this present state in brief. The Exodus, stated in the Bible, is during the era of the Middle Kingdom of Egypt, the Dynasty 13 era, between that of the reigns of Dudimos and Neferhotep. The Israelites during that era were among the several Asiatic peoples in Egypt. The terminologies for the Asiatics varied from the terms such as the Amu, the Setu, the Retenu, and for their leaders, the Hyksos, later on in history referred to as the Hyksos. The exodus from Egypt is credited from external sources, such as the papyri of Lahun and Ipera, and it is referred to in what is called the Amarna tablets. What you're looking at right here is the Ipera papyrus. Part of it states in translation, male slaves / female slaves are loose with their tongues. You can read that in your own time. The Israelites were among known to many peoples in that time as a branch of people termed as the Apiru, as the Habiru, as well as the Sagas. And the extended reference, what is referred to as the Serabet El Kadim, in the Exodus and the migration of the Hebrews. The entering of the Israelites into the land of Canaan is known broadly as the Kabiru in the land of Canaan. Since we must remember that Israel or Yisrael is a national self-name and in cases not acknowledged by others as a name. This will be discussed later. The era now being spoken of in the 14th century BCE, we see the Israelites settled in the land not as a kingdom, but rather as a settled people, known as their own tribes. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin. The kingdom era came after the era of the judges, and the external references of Dawid or David, Joab or Joab, and Shaul or Saul are attested to in what is referred to as the Amarna records. The Danite stele, and concerning Solomon, the connection between him and the business with the Cushites. The Israelites as a kingdom split in the 9th century BCE, and this became known as the Northern and Southern Kingdom. The Northern Kingdom rulers were known externally among the Assyrians and the Moabites. Certain of their rulers are notable, such as Ahab the Israelite, written of by Shalmaneser III, the king of Assyria. In this same era, we see that the people of the Israelites, namely from the tribe of Asher and Zebulun, were among some of the Canaanites who migrated to what is now Tunisia and established what is called a place later on called Carthage. This too will be discussed later. The southern kingdom was known as Judah, but there were other tribes of Israel within them as well. The northern kingdom fell in the 6th century BCE. The northern kingdom fell in the 8th century BCE to the Assyrian kings, such as Tiglath-Pileser, all the way down to Shalmaneser. Some of them who ruled in Assyria also ruled in Babylon. This too will be discussed later. The fall of the northern kingdom was left to Hezekiah of Judah, and external references it from Sennacherib right down to Manasseh of Judah and Esarhaddon of Assyria. What we're looking at, brothers and sisters, is a picture of what Sennacherib of Assyria spoke of concerning Hezekiah of Judah. This is referred to as the Hezekiah prism. Esarhaddon ruled in the 7th century BCE in Assyria as well as in Babylon. And when you read external references, he speaks about Manasseh, the king of Judah, being captured by him. And this is in part due to when we read later on about the quote-unquote Elephantine Jews that we see of in history. What we're looking at, brothers and sisters, is a picture of the Elephantine papyrus that is dated to the era of the 5th century BCE, in which you had people of the tribe of Judah living in Elephantine Egypt. The southern kingdom fell to Babylon in the 6th century BCE, and external references from Babylon speak of Yaukinu of Yehudu, that is to say, Jehoiakim of the tribe of Judah. One reference can come from a book entitled Greatness That Was Babylon, written by Sags. What we're looking at is the Babylonian record speaking, brothers and sisters, of Jehoiakim, the king of Judah. Thus we see the kingdoms of the Israelites, the northern and the southern, in unison had fallen. And now we see Babylon as a power from the era of 606 to 538 BCE to then the Median Persian era of Cyrus to Darius. The Israelites we spoke of before partly went to Egypt, and historians speak of the temple of Yahu. External references can also be found when you read about the Passover papyrus, dated to the 5th century BCE. The fall of the Persian Empire left what is called the Second Temple in existence. This was the temple that was later destroyed by the Romans. Back to the era of the Israelites that returned, we see that they were the same ones as were those who the Greek and later on the Roman era in existence. Persia fell to Greece in 331 BCE. And from the era of Alexander, we see to the era of the Ptolemies and the Seleucid era, that they had hegemony over what is now Egypt to the land of Syria. In the year 168 BCE, the Greeks lost to Rome, and 20 years later, the Carthaginians lost to Rome. Rome was at that time on a rise. In their time, we see in the era of Julius Caesar to Hadrian that a people called the Idumeans, namely in this particular case the Herodian family, were partners with the Romans in trying to get the Israelites from their land. What we are about to read, brothers and sisters, comes from a book entitled The History of Ancient Israel by Michael Grant. And we're going to go, brothers and sisters, to page 242 and read part of it. After an existence of some 600 years, the Second Temple had ceased to exist, and it was never rebuilt. Elsewhere in Jerusalem, however, the Jewish resistant groups, although weakened by famine, continued to hold out, while Titus's soldiers were permitted to plunder, massacre, and burn. Finally, a defense that had lasted for 4.5 months, every part of the city had fallen. As in other parts of Judea, huge numbers of prisoners were taken and destined for execution or starvation or slaughter in gladiatorial shows. He goes on to state the following. Anyone able to claim a connection to the house of David was also hunted down and eliminated. That is speaking about what happened with the Romans and the Israelites and their partnership that the Romans had with the children of the Edomites. It is extremely reasonable to think that the Israelites during that era went to places in Africa. From the record of Strabo, we see the following. 1 million Hebrews resided from the area of Libya to Ethiopia. The bulk of the people went west and south. And thus we see, for instance, the people that we see here called by their own name, Beta Israel, who are unfortunately incorrectly called Falashas. These people are part of the diaspora of Israel. Let us continue. The migration across Africa is spoken of externally by Eldad Hadani, mentioned in the book Babylon and Timbuktu, who stated that tribes of Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher went to what is now the places we call Mali and Ghana of today. The historian Dr. Ben speaks on this as well, in which he speaks about the following. During the era of the Roman persecution upon the African Hebrews, they migrated into Africa going west and forming the kingdoms of Mele, Mali, and the Mandinka in part. It should be interesting to note that the great kingdoms which came up as Ghana, Mele, and the Sangoi came up after that the diaspora of the Hebrews from the land of Israel to Western Africa, and as pointed out in the book Deuteronomy 28, Deuteronomy 28, the condition of the blacks, written by Moreh Yeshaya, it fell to the Arabs and the Europeans. In the time dating back to the 5th century BCE, we see evidence of the Carthaginians going to what is now the land of Gambia. And as J.A. Rogers points out in his book, 100 Amazing Facts About the Negro, he states that West Africa has black Jews also. When the kingdoms fell in West Africa, we see that the Atlantic slave trade was on the rise. The first ship going west was in 1518, and the Europeans became rich off of the traffic. The Israelites hold that the diaspora and the captivity happened due to not keeping the commandments of the Torah. The Egypt in Deuteronomy 28 verse 68 is the Mount Zoraim, or the double distress by Aniyot in ships. That speaks of what will happen to the Israelites after their diaspora. This is something that was the length and discussion concerning the presentation that was going to be delivered fully at Rockland Community College. And just want to sit there and state in closing, giving honor and praise to Yah, the creator, the maker of heaven and earth. Also, on a human level, want to give a shout out to my beloved brother and friend, the brother Nasi Yashuvel, my brother and friend, the brother Priest Danyala from the Lions of Israel, my brother and friend Pawar from AOC, as well as my brother and my friend Hashar from AOC, as well as my sister and good friend Milka Bat Yahuda, and of course, giving a shout out to the Mishpachah drummers. So with that, I say peace, shalom, and have a good day.